So I want to hear what else you got, man. What other things have you seen?
So Tyler and I know he loves this one. I'm going to bring up Vita Inclinata because you talked about the angle of how to get this thing on a site, right? So Eddie, not sure if he shared it with you, but Vita Inclinata, big shout out to those guys. They are a crane stabilization solution.
It's so
They
cool.
started in the aerospace industry, and they used to, like a litter on the bottom of a rescue helicopter. It gets in that rotor wash and just freaking spins, right? So they're like, hey, how can we fix this? So Vita gets involved, and they figured out this little Vita pilot, and it was like 3.5 feet by I think 3.5 feet little box, right? And it has battery powered fan thrusters that are opposite of each other, and a little remote control from the guy up in the helicopter can control it, or somebody on the ground, and just hit a little button, and those fan thrusters kick on and that's literally, you can quote me on that. That's how it sounds. and it'll stabilize that litter. So you can go onto their site and you can see this race, and like your Jybot one, right? And they have a traditional helicopter doing it with the litter just straight line up, and that thing's spinning. And then they use the Vita thing, and it goes up just seamlessly. It gets the litter into the helicopter, they're down. So they do 4 in the time that it took them to do 1 in the traditional fashion. So they're like, hey, what else can we do with this? So we got involved with Vita a few years ago, and they said, hey, we're going into the construction industry, and we think this can work on cranes. And we're like, hell yeah, it can. So started these conversations, and now they have the pilot, which is the 3.5 by 3.5. So really good for like maybe a small HVAC unit or just quick picks, maybe even a mobile crane could put it on their crane, right? Or their truck. And then you got a 20-foot spreader bar with, it's a lot bigger, big fan thrusters. You got a 40 ton. So now we're starting to gain with capacity. And we found a project in Dirte, California, and Reliable Crane was our crane contractor, right? And we approached them with this solution. We're like, hey, what do you think about us trying this on it's a DPR project? And they're like, I don't know. So we had to get Vita to basically put this 10-ton spreader bar thing on a truck, bring it out to Dirte, and we did it in the Reliable Crane yard. No joke. Within 4 minutes of training, the rigger, the crane rigger had been, he's 15 years in the industry or something like that. Grabs his thing. He's like, this is pretty cool. Starts using the remote control, and they're starting to, a truck showed up and they started unloading a tower crane jib. Just 4 minutes of training. All of a sudden these guys are lifting loads, using the thing, spinning it because it has like a load stabilization. It has a load rotate, like a position hold. Like, so if you're doing repetitive picks, and these guys, this thing's awesome. And one of the big things with Vita that they want to do is work to reduce or eliminate taglines when using their system, right? So DPR, we've had some incidences in the past, and we know the industry has as well, where guys get caught up in a tagline, right? They'll get lifted 30, 40 feet off the deck before anybody knows or before they even realize it, right? And so, yes, taglines have their place in the industry, always on, safety first, but sometimes it can actually hinder safety, right? So we're like, looking, if we can use these in tandem, we could probably save some people. So it took us almost a year to work with our risk folks at DPR to like, no, this is actually going to reduce our risk. They're like, well, what if it fails? Well, we got the tagline, we're fine. What if the remote control spin out of control? We're like, what if the wind picks up on a crane and it does it anyways? Like, these are redundant arguments. Finally, we got them to sign off, and Reliable essentially said, hey, we're going to take this on. We'll put it under our insurance. We're going to work through this thing. And we think this has a real spot in the industry. So now we got a large general contractor on board with this. We have a great crane company that's on board, and we got it on a project, and we're actually working with Cal OSHA on an experimental variance to reduce or eliminate the use of taglines with the system. So like, we're partnering with all sorts of people to take like what is a pretty typical operation on a construction site and make it safer, right? Just by adding the new solution. It's one of my favorite ones, and probably the one we've worked one of the hardest on in the last year.